Welcome to the Rundown Reborn channel.
I've got 5.5 sheets of drywall here. The easiest way to get those out of the way is to get them on the wall.
Here at the stairs, it can be a bit tricky to get a great fit for your drywall against a set of stair steps. This method I'm about to demonstrate for you is the easiest way I can think of to get a good do-it-yourself result. With a piece of drywall temporarily hung up on the wall above, I begin by extending plumb vertical lines up from each riser face. I then take accurate measurements of the height of each of the risers, and I mark the top of those heights and the vertical lines that I just laid out on the drywall. Now it's always good to follow the proverbial words of wisdom, measure twice and cut once. Now here with my box level, I draw level horizontal lines parallel to where the tread top of each of those steps occur. Once all of the measurements are transferred to the drywall, I can pretty much see the stair steps drawn in profile on the surface of the drywall. And now with a steel straight edge, I'm carefully scoring all the lines on the drywall with a sharp utility knife. Now I'm taking my time with the step as I don't want the knife to drift from the line, nor do I want to cut myself with the blade. I just need to cut deep enough to get through the paper surface of the drywall. Now once the cutout edge is scored, I'm using a drywall saw to cut some of the vertical edges. This saw, too, is a sharp tool that likes to bite, so do take care. I then take down the drywall to cut and snap any remaining edges of the cutout area. And now I should have a nice tight fit against my steps. Boom. Now, this basement is really a problem. It's just a wreck down here, and I really need to get this cleaned up too. But there's no lighting down here. I do have some power right here, but I have no light, so I can't even see down here without a flashlight. So, before I can start cleaning this place up, I've got to get some lights put in. And to do that, I'm just going to tie into this GFCI outlet. So I need to isolate this and shut it off. Black wire up. And it looks like we're going into this circuit right here. And I've got my voltage tester here. Plug that in. No beep. I'm going to flip that back on. And we're definitely hot here. So that is definitely the circuit. We'll shut that off and start our work. To wire up a switch, it's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to connect the ground wires. I cut one short, and I'm going to screw this green wire nut on here for ground wires. It allows one wire to extend through it. And we'll connect that to the switch. Just make sure it's good and tight. Doesn't pull off. And a little turn. Screw that onto the switch at the green terminal screw. The next thing is we need to just connect these white wires together. I'm going to shorten them a little bit here. I'm using 14-2 wire. 2 wires, 14 gauge. It's a little slimmer. It's usually white if you're buying the Romex brand here. And we're just going to use a standard yellow wire nut for that. Connect those together. That allows the neutral to continue. Now with a standard single pole switch, you want to make sure it's in the off position, just so that you hang it right. There's no power in these wires right now. Hook the ends. And we want to connect these to the brass terminal screws. They're kind of golden color. Just one on each screw. That allows the switch to open and close that connection. Okay, we just make sure that they're good and tight. And we'll go ahead and push this all back into the box. There we go. Now we'll just go ahead and put our switch cover on. Screw that in. Switch is in place. Now it's time to go get these lights hooked up. First thing I gotta do is figure out how much wire I need. So I need to measure that out and get that hung out to a junction box where I want my first light fixture. So I'm gonna mount my first fixture on this joist right here. I'm gonna bring this wire into the side, bring another wire out to continue on to the next fixture. months in. You know, do it yourself, you save a lot of money. I guess electrician probably run you about 200, 300 bucks maybe to do what we just did here. Basically tie into some power here, run a switch, wire up the lights. Now it's time to test, see if it all works. Hey Eddie, can you give me a hand? Let's see if these lights work. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Right! They're working! So, we're almost done. The next step, it's a doozy. Stay tuned. So before I get into this last thing I got to do, I want to go ahead and give you a tour of the basement. And some of this stuff I did was before I started the YouTube channel. So I just want to show you what's going on down here. Now, one of the first things I did before I moved in was install this new electrical panel. This is the old one here, and it definitely wasn't very good. The service comes in from the corner here of the house. I did hire an electrician to do that, and got myself a new 100 amp panel. I called a handful of electricians. This is the only one that didn't try to sell me a 200 amp panel. It's more than enough for this size of house. Every electrician says, oh, you need a 200 amp panel. I can't believe you're not going to a 200 amp panel. Why? Because they want to sell you a full upgrade at several $1,000s, and you need a new power line coming in, all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's not something that's necessarily needed. So the next thing I had to do was install some gas lines. There was some in the house, but they weren't in very good shape. And so I just replaced and went all new on that. The gas comes in from the meter here in the corner as well, where the power's coming in. And I put a main shutoff right here, and then ran gas lines to basically feed the stove and feed the gas log furnace. I left a capped stub in the line, which we then used this past November to connect up the HVAC system. Now over here, I've got my water supply. It's a little awkward. It needs to be redone. This was a very fast, temporary solution. It was a matter of just trying to get water online. I got PEX pipe going everywhere. It's all 1/2 inch, so once you turn on one faucet in one place, another faucet, you just lose water pressure. If somebody's in the shower and somebody turns on the laundry, you got problems. So that all is going to need to be redone. But for now, we've got water. That was the most critical thing. I went with electrical on the water heater, as I didn't have gas supply at that time. This was one of the first things we had to get put in. So I bought a decent sized water heater, and then my one-day plumber went ahead and connected the water lines to that. So it's been doing okay. It's a 50-gallon water heater. We haven't really had any hot water issues. Now another thing I've got going on down here, it's a serious problem, is this. They've knocked out a lot of this foundation wall. This is a bearing wall. They've knocked a ton of wall out. It's not good. Now to add salt to the wound, the bearing wall that's above this, they cut the studs out to install a shower. So dumb, which transferred the floor loads and the weight from the second story onto the center of this joist span, and I've had a lot of sag in that. Now my plan down the road here, once I start redoing the bathroom, is to go ahead and get that bearing wall back in line. Get the weight going back down onto the bearing line. But before I do that, I've got to really shore this up. There's a lot of sag here. So I'm going to need to post this up, jack this up a little bit, and get some support under this before I transfer that load back to this wall. It's a lot of work, and I'm not really looking forward to this effort, but it's something that definitely has to be done. Now, one other thing I've got issues with is my sewer drain system. This was all existing here, and it's just awful. There was originally a bathroom over here, a pseudo bathroom. Nothing was connected. And we disconnected all of that and capped off that, capped a lot of these lines off. This sewer drain system is currently feeding our one bathroom that's installed, an existing bathroom, and it's super gross. So I'm really anxious to try to get some new bathrooms put in place in the very near future. Now that I've got the upstairs kind of under control, I've got a lot of framing done, I can really start to focus on this plumbing here in the very near future. So a lot of those videos are coming up. This is kind of cool. What I have here appears to be some sort of old switch box. It's not connected anymore. Boy, that's ancient. Totally corroded, rusted out. Not something you want to reuse. This room in here has a concrete floor. It gets a little moisture coming down on the side. That's primarily due to the fact that I don't have any gutters yet on that side of the house. I'm hoping once I get gutters, this thing's going to start to dry out a little bit. I'm not going to be shedding as much water into that side yard and right there at the foundation wall. If the gutters don't fix it, I might have to consider a drain tile. In this room, it's basically a dirt floor. Now over here is an opening to a crawl space. This sits underneath the living room in the front of the house. It's a dirt floor and not much space. I've been under there. I've got a couple videos of me under there. It's tight quarters, and hopefully I don't have to go back under there anytime soon. Now over here in this corner is where I put a new window in. When I started tearing that window out, basically found a whole lot of rot under the sill there. So I did have to go in there and insist on some joist blocking there and try to get that a little bit more structurally sound. I haven't had any moisture coming in there anymore, really. I do have a little bit of moisture here on the ground. Again, gutter issue. I don't have a gutter on that corner of the house. Something that needs to be done this spring. Now over here in this back corner is where the front door is of the house. The porch is beyond. You can see here I did also have to do some fixing of that floor. It was all rotted. There was a leak in the roof directly above the front door, which was coming in here, just rotting all this out, and probably caused a lot of damage on this side of the house, which is why somebody came in here and basically reinforced the foundation of this spot. This was one of the interesting things that I found when I first looked at this house, and I decided it was a good go because somebody had done structural work here on the foundation, and I knew this corner of the house was settling, and this was a sheer sign that somebody had addressed that issue at some point in the past, and it seems to be real solid. It's not going to go anywhere, and so it made me feel a lot better about there not being potential for a problem here with the foundation. Now right over here is the crawl space in under the kitchen. I have been under there to do some plumbing for the washing machine, and there's more to do under there. It's not a pleasant place to be. It's so tight, so dirty. Once we start pulling the kitchen together, there's going to be a couple more trips under there to work on that. This right here is a chimney. It probably was tied in originally to the old boiler for a gravity feed furnace. This went all the way up to the upstairs. I took down the top half of that chimney so we could have more space upstairs. It was just right in the center of the space up there. I left the rest of it. It's buried in the wall. Not an issue. There was another chimney over in this corner directly above. It would have been a cooking chimney. It doesn't go to the basement. It would have been probably what the stove exhausted through when they had a coal burning stove. So today my goal is to pretty much wrap up this room. I've got to get all this stuff out of here and hopefully make a little money at it. Now to do that, it's going to require some grinding, some sweat, some time, and I've recruited my neighbor to give me a hand with that. So, we'll see how that goes.